Welcome to Stuck in the Catchfence, where we'll be talking about here on the weekly show Goodyear testing the tires at Indy. Are we going back to the oval? I call it a rectangle. Also, Corey LaJoie signs a multi-year extension. Where's he going to go, or is he going to stay at Spire Motorsports? And we also have Ross Chastain getting a brand new sponsor, and we had a whole new series race last night, beginning its third year. This and more on the Stuck in the Catchfence weekly show. Welcome in. This is Stuck in the Catchfence. I am your host, Ryan Peters. I am glad that you're here. So we waited till Friday. We did a live stream last night, and that's actually going to be my first question for you here on this beautiful Friday evening here in the great state of Indiana. The quick question will be, did you watch last night's SRX show? They were at Stafford in Connecticut for the first race of the season, where Denny the Hamster Hamlin came away with the victory. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had something to say about it because it was 20 laps shorter than what it should have been. Shocker. We haven't had a race yet, it seems like, here in 3 weeks where Mother Nature hasn't decided to end a race. But my question to you is, number one, did you watch it? And number two, did you enjoy it? We had a great following on the show last night. I believe we're up to around 200 people, visited the channel and joined in on the SRX fun. So I think that's a great thing for SRX. And number one, they raced like banshees last night. I mean, they were going at it in heat number one. There were multiple accidents in that. There were multiple accidents in heat number two. And also, ESPN brings back Thursday Night Thunder for the first time. So the next 6 weeks, if you include this yesterday's week one race, great show, great time. I'm glad to see that they were going at it. I'm glad to see that they were letting all hang out. And I don't know if Tony Stewart got into, some of these guys' ears and said, hey, we want a really, really good show. So, guys, push the limits, because typically it's been, some older retired guys, maybe some guys kind of getting long in the tooth. But no, we saw Denny Hamlin last night. Haley Deegan's obviously in it. Some guys like Marco Andretti, last year's champion, was still doing it. Brad Keselowski will be in this full time. Kevin Harvick. So you're starting to see a mesh of guys still racing, and actually still racing at a high level as well. If the season ended right now, both Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and Brad Keselowski would make the playoffs. So, guys still running well, even though they're, veterans of the sport, they're still racing at a high level. So I thought that was great. The one bad news for SRX, and I don't know if you would call it bad news for the series, but bad news for Thunder Road, is they will not be participating in next week's race. It will be going back to Stafford due to the historic flooding that they've had there. So our thoughts are with them. So we will see them back at Stafford next week. And they announced that Ryan Preece will be racing next week at Stafford. And if you don't know, he's raced at Stafford. He's a modified Whelen modified driver, has run there multiple times. I think just by him being announced, he's automatically the favorite. I mean, I could be wrong, but definitely knows that track very, very well, knows what it takes to win on that track. And last night, I mean, we saw them driving in the grass, the very bottom of the lanes, and, he will know that more than anyone else. So I really, really enjoyed yesterday's race for the first time at the SRX week one. Again, myself, I'm going to Berlin, Michigan. So I believe that's race number 4. And I can't wait. So, should be a awesome season. And I think overall it's really good for motorsports in general. But that being said, that's the quick question. Let's go ahead and jump into the news. The first piece of news is we have major, as I slam into my mic with my chest, major sponsorship news, and maybe that's not news to you, but in the sport of NASCAR, this is major news as Bush Light, or whatever you want to call it, Bush, will be leaving Stewart Haas Racing, and they will be taking their putrid sales talent as of late due to the issues going on there. But no, that they're taking themselves over to Trackhouse. Trackhouse will be gaining a huge sponsor for one Ross Chastain. My first take of this, missed opportunity for Kyle Busch, but in all seriousness, Trackhouse just keeps doing things. I mean, with Project 91, with the drivers that they have in Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, who's now like he would be in the playoffs as of right now. He's either right in it by 3 points or right out of it by 3 points, but nonetheless, both drivers looking to get in. Just doing all kinds of different things right now to move the needle in the sport. And obviously, with Kevin Harvick retiring at the end of the year, Trackhouse, Justin Marks swoop in, gain a major sponsor, and now Ross Chastain will have Busch Light as one of his primary sponsors next year. And we know how far money goes in this sport. It's a big deal to be sponsored, to have big sponsorships, is a big deal. There's a reason why Kyle Busch was not able to stay with Joe Gibbs, and it was because of sponsorship. Possibly the greatest driver of this generation had to switch going from Toyota to Chevy because of sponsorship. So somebody like Ross Chastain able to take advantage and gain a sponsor in Busch Light is a big deal. And it's also a big deal that Stewart Haas is losing a sponsor. Now, most of this stuff is done well in advance before it actually comes out. And I think that we all know there were some grumblings about this for a while, so I don't think it's huge news, but it is news nonetheless. But that being said, Stewart Haas now has, I believe, an 8 to 9 race gap to fill with their sponsors, and not only are they losing their best driver by far on their team, they're now losing a major sponsorship as well. So we'll see how Stewart Haas plans to fill this. Obviously, their bigger sponsors are Mahindra and Smithfield. As of right now, it's looking bleak. I'm not sure who's going to be the primary sponsor for Josh Berry when he does move over. Probably Hunt's Brothers Pizza and maybe, a couple other things. But yeah, so a great gain for Trackhouse and a big loss for Stewart Haas Racing. Now, moving on to some other news as well. Corey LaJoie reportedly turns down bigger offers to stay at Spire Motorsports. Now, with Corey LaJoie's contract being up, I think a lot of people saw what Corey LaJoie was doing at the beginning of the season and said, man, what would happen if he was able to get in better equipment? That's what everybody was saying. That's what everybody has thought. Because he was at one point running 15th in the series. Now he's back down to around 23rd, 24th, 25th. And that big moment came when Chase Elliott was suspended for intentionally wrecking Denny Hamlin. And the one Corey LaJoie, stacking pennies himself, got the call from Rick Hendrick and said, we will have you drive the number 9 car at WWT. So you must be asking yourself, how did that go? That's a big deal. A lot of people have been waiting for a driver like himself to get into a ride to prove himself. Not so good. Not so good. Carson Macedo, the one that took over his car, actually had a better showing than one Corey LaJoie. Now, I say that and I reference that because let's say he did really, really well in this race. In that race, his one-time showing. Do we believe that Corey LaJoie would still be at Spire Motorsports? Because that's ultimately what happens. He signed a multi-year agreement to stay at Spire Motorsports. Spire Motorsports says that they're also going to be putting in some more revenue and things of that nature into their team to make this bigger and more competitive. I'm telling you right now, I believe the answer is no. Corey LaJoie would not be at Spire Motorsports if he had a good running in the number 9 car filling in for Chase Elliott. I believe that with my entire entity that I have. I think Corey LaJoy, when he says, or the maybe the agent says they turn down bigger offers, I think those bigger offers probably were tentative after or before, excuse me, the WWT race. I believe that those offers were probably sitting there going, Corey, this is your chance to shine. And that's why he looked so defeated once he did not do well at WWT. And I think after WWT not doing well in a Rick Hendrick car, those offers were then rescinded. I mean, obviously, we don't have a timeline. This is pure conjecture. I have no idea. But I think a lot of people after that moved themselves forward and going, maybe Corey LaJoy is not the driver we all thought he was. You know, he's a fun character. I think he gets a lot of appeal by other drivers. He obviously has his own NASCAR.com podcast that gains, some traction and things of that nature. But I just think the flame burned bright very, very shortly. And then after WWT, it went away. All that being said, congratulations to Corey LaJoy. He's going to be in this sport for the near future. And, he's locked into a ride. And I think more importantly, we want to see Spire Motorsports move assets to where he can be competitive. None of us here want to watch cars not competitive on any given day. And with the personality of Corey LaJoy, I think that would be a good thing. I believe we have a chat. Zach says that he's Team Bubba, so I'm glad that we have Zach to come in here and troll us. Zach actually probably will be Team Bubba if his driver does not make the playoffs, which it is Alex Bowman. So, Alex Bowman right now on the outside looking in, Zach. So maybe Team Bubba is the way to go. Jeff Gordon actually was asked about if they're going to move any type of crew chiefs or anything else to Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott since they are on the outside looking in. And he said, no, we're not panicking at this time. Obviously, that 60 points taken away has played a big deal because he would be safely right on the edge of the playoffs, but right now, comfortably looking out. And Zach then says, #shots. I think maybe that's what he's doing at his house, and that's why he's commenting that way. I'm not sure. Nonetheless, this is why we have a live show, so we can communicate with you guys. I want to know this. Goodyear's going to be testing tires on the Indy Oval. Does that matter to you? Do you care that Goodyear will be testing tires on the Indy Oval? It sounds like from Goodyear themselves, they're saying that there has been enough noise, there's been enough chatter that NASCAR is at least looking into. I think next year they will run at the Indy Oval, but they're going to do a tire test. They said they don't want to have the 2008 incident where cars literally couldn't go 20 laps without blowing tires. So are you excited if NASCAR for the 2024 season decides to go back to the Indy Oval? Me personally, I'm not. I think the Indy road course is fine. I think the Indianapolis, and it is a rectangle, by the way. You can't have four corners the way that it's shaped and have two short chutes and be a circle. It's a rectangle with rounded edges. It's like this screen right here. I mean, it's a rectangle. That's not an oval. Nonetheless, this isn't geometry, I guess. I'm not very excited if they decide to go back. I think the reason why Indianapolis Oval died is because it's not meant for these cars. And I don't care if it's the next gen car, the Gen 6 car. It's just really not meant for them to be on this track for that reason. Maybe if they decide to switch it up and one year they do the oval and then in the next year they do the road course, maybe that does something. But you're talking a place that holds like 250,000 people and you maybe get 50,000 people there. It just doesn't look good on TV. I went to the Indy road course last year and it was a blast. I mean, it was wild. And I think that's what adds to the road course is that it is really fun for what it is. Now, does it have the nostalgia or anything of that nature? No, of course not. But at the end of the day, I want to be entertained while watching a good race. And I can't remember the last time I sat there and thought about, man, how much do I miss the Indy Oval because it was such good racing? I don't. Now I know other drivers. I mean, my favorite driver, Kyle Busch, has been pleading for them to go back to the Indy Oval. I simply don't. It doesn't bother me in any way. Um, the nostalgia is there for the Indy cars. It's not there for NASCAR, who started running there, I believe, in '94. It was either '94 or '98. But yeah, I could care less. I don't mind if it was to get switched up, one versus the other. And this is, I guess you would call it my home track since Kentucky Speedway's been retired. But yeah, so Goodyear will be running a test on tires at the Indy Oval as well. Also, one bit of news before we jump into the race preview. First off, drink break. The short track package they were supposed to have a test on Monday. That test has been moved back to either Tuesday or Wednesday. And their NASCAR is flirting with the idea of a splitter that changes its height, if I have this correct, based upon if you're in clean air or if you're in dirty air. So that test is supposed to be on Tuesday or Wednesday now, and it creates more downforce or less downforce, one of the two, depending upon where you're running. Um, Denny Hamlin came out and said that he believes the idea of the short track package needs to be based upon tires, doesn't need to be based upon downforce. Obviously, we have Christopher Bell, in his interview with Eric Estep, said that, it all comes down to one thing, and it's the same thing that we've been saying on this channel for a long time: horsepower, horsepower, horsepower. So that's just a side note. Eric Estep has a great video on that he posted today. So if you do want to check that, I wanted to just mention that before we jump into the race preview. But it's now that time. So let's talk about going to the Northeast and headed to Loudon. So we are heading to Loudon, New Hampshire. Loudon is a very flat style track. It's either 1 mile or 1.3 miles. I'll have to look it up for you guys because I totally forgot. Hold on, let me look it up real quick. Since we are doing a live show, I can do that. I've always wanted to go there. Again, I said that they had the best trophy in all of sports. My friend Zach there would tell me that that is not true. But as you can tell by clicking on the thumbnail, I think it's pretty clear. You get a freaking lobster, not just a lobster, a live lobster for your trophy. So, yeah, 1.08 miles, the Magic Mile, New Hampshire. Again, a very, very flat track, concrete, kind of beat up surface. We've had some decent racing. You want to be on the low line. Unfortunately, we've had like rain ruin a race. We've had Christopher Bell should have won it a while back, a couple years ago, but Eric Almirola ended up winning it because of they don't have lights. So they decided just like right in the middle of the race, kind of like at Chicago, to really shorten that race. And unfortunately, we're looking at rain again. It looks like right now, from the last weather report I saw, 100% chance of rain. So take that with what you will. I will say this: my bets, if I was to make a bet, there'd be two different things that I would bet on. I would look at the odds for Eric Almirola to finish in the top 10 or the top 5. Eric Almirola has always ran here really, really well. And then you got like any Toyota, pretty much, if you want to bet on them to win this race. I think we'll go ahead and look at it, but I'm pretty sure Bubba Wallace had a top 3 finish here last year. And go ahead and pull that up. So Christopher Bell was your winner. Chase Elliott was second. Then there's Bubba. Martin Truex led the most laps at 172. Kevin Harvick did well here. Then Denny Hamlin, Brad Kay, Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, and Kurt Busch. So as you can tell, a lot of Toyotas up here. Kyle Busch, I know, has run well at this track as well. It's not the 1 mile that typically hurts Kyle Busch. This reminds me more of WWT, a track that he ended up winning. So I definitely think he has a chance here versus short tracks, like Martinsville and things of that nature. But I'm excited. I've always really liked this race. I know I've talked to other uh, people that have went to Loudon, New Hampshire, and said that this track and everything about it has been one of their favorite tracks to ever go to. So it's been on my mind for a long time to go to Loudon. So I would absolutely love to go there one time. So I'm looking forward to Sunday's race. Tomorrow we do have the Xfinity that will be on as well. The trucks are off this week, so plan accordingly. I believe it's at 2 o'clock tomorrow for the Xfinity race. But yeah, if we go ahead and make our picks, I'm gonna put them here in the chat. I got to go with Kyle Busch. Then I will go with Christopher Bell. Whoa. Let's just go ahead and put Seabell. Seabell, MTJ, Hamlin. So that's 4. And then my outside, like I already said, I'm going to go with Almirola as my top 5. I'll get Joe's picks and see what he wants to put. If you want to put your picks in there as well, feel free to put so in the comments. And we'll see how you stack up against us. So next week, we'll probably be back to normal style week, getting back to it on Wednesday and Thursday. And might live stream again on Thursday night for the SRX race. I mean, that was really fun. You guys seem to, really enjoy it. Just a side note, I can't broadcast the race. That would be a copyright infringement for ESPN to shut this channel down. So if you're coming in here and you see a live stream, it is me live streaming talking to you. And while we watch the race at the same time at your TV, you're just looking to get a little bit more input. But next week, I might be more quiet or might watch it by myself anyway, because DW will be in the booth with Alan Bestwick, talk about 2 of the best. Alan Bestwick is so good. Joey Logano was really good, but DW is my absolute favorite. So hopefully we get some good weather for that. Hopefully we get some good weather for New Hampshire. If you've made it this far into the channel, you might as well like and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you here in the Stuck in the Catchfence community. We enjoy talking NASCAR sports, and it doesn't have to be just NASCAR. Obviously, we talk about SRX. Probably going to do a video here in the near future for Formula One and what we've seen so far in it, which is really Max Verstappen just dominating, and a future event in American motorsports. And then I'm going to be headed to Eldora for the first time. So I'll probably put together some shorts and things of that nature as long as the rain stays away tomorrow, as they will be hosting the Kings Run at Eldora Speedway. Last night they ran for the $1 million or the $1 Million Maker. So yeah, we got about every type of racing you can have. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Also, we're on our way to 500 subscribers. Once we get to that point, we'll be giving away a free 1x24 diecast car as well. So my name is Ryan Peters. That's going to wrap it up for the weekly show. We will talk to you hopefully on Sunday after a wonderful race that the rain stayed away. See you next time. This is Stuck in the Catch Fence.